The Constitutional Court in Thailand bans the country's top three ruling parties from the electoral process. India insists on the handover of 20 of its most wanted persons from Pakistan as Pakistan urges joint cooperation. U.S. Treasury Secretary Henry Paulson praises the positive impact of engagement with China through the strategic economic dialogue. And top nuclear envoys from the US and Japan push for a written agreement to verify samples from DPRK nuclear facilities. Hello and welcome to Worldwide Watch on CCTV International. I'm Li Xin. Thai Prime Minister Somchai Wongsawat has been ousted after a court ruling that dissolves the country's top three ruling parties for electoral fraud. The Constitutional Court ruled on Tuesday that all three parties' 59 executives had been banned from the electoral process for 5 years. A temporary cabinet will soon be announced to prepare for fresh parliamentary elections. Li Xiang has the story.
Thailand's political conflict reached a watershed on Tuesday as the country's Constitutional Court forced Prime Minister Somchai Wongsawat from office. The court found Somchai's People's Power Party, the Machima Tipata Party, and the Chart Thai Party guilty of committing fraud in the December 2007 elections. Somchai accepted the verdict, which also makes Deputy Prime Minister Chawara Chandraraku the caretaker cabinet leader. Parliament will now have to pick a new Prime Minister within 30 days. Members of the opposition People's Alliance for Democracy, or PAD, hailed their victory. Shortly after the court ruling, the PAD announced they would end an 8-day sit-in that had severed all air links to the capital.
We see that it is unnecessary to keep gathering. The PAD announces that we will stop our gathering at all venues, Government House, Suvarnabhumi Airport, and Dan Muang on December the 3rd.
There is more good news for Bangkok's paralyzed air traffic. Earlier reports said Suvarnabhumi International Airport would not reopen for commercial flights before December the 15th. But airport authorities say flights will resume on Friday because an inspection revealed the airport has suffered no damage.
First flight will be on the 4th at 24:01. And incoming flight should be any time after that. Yeah. But we have to be sure that everything okay.
Airport authorities say the reopening of the airport will be a birthday gift for King Bhumibol Adulyadej, who turns 81 on Friday. Speaking at a military parade on Tuesday in honor of his birthday, the king called on the army to behave properly and appropriately. During the political crisis, the revered king did not offer any firm support for Somchai. Li Xiang, CCTV.
Meanwhile, around 700 more Chinese tourists stranded in Thailand have returned home on charter flights. That raises the number of Chinese citizens repatriated to over 3,000. Song Wei has the latest.
A China Southern flight arrived at the Guangzhou Baiyun International Airport early on Tuesday morning. On board, 375 Chinese tourists, including 50 Hong Kong residents. Despite a 2-hour delay, the passengers were very excited to be reunited with their families.
We were treated to singing and dancing shows. We were also offered drinks and bags.
We had prepared 30 to 40 meals and drinks for passengers who had been starved for a long time.
Meanwhile, the last chartered Air China flight has flown 305 Chinese tourists to Beijing. 11 flights dispatched by the Chinese Civil Aviation have carried 3,113 stranded Chinese nationals back home. Song Wei, CCTV.
India is demanding Pakistan hand over 20 of its most wanted suspects as a sign of good faith in the aftermath of the Mumbai attacks. Pakistan says it will frame a response and has proposed a joint investigation. Liu Yanhua has the details.
India has blamed the militants based in Pakistan for Mumbai attacks that killed over 180 people last week. Foreign Minister Pranab Mukherjee says the government has handed a protest note to Pakistan's High Commissioner in New Delhi, demanding the handover of 20 most wanted persons.
Now we have in our democracy asked the arrest and handover of those persons who are settled in Pakistan and who are fugitive of Indian law. Therefore, there are a list of about 20%.
The Pakistani government has called for cooperation. It's proposed a joint investigating mechanism and a joint commission.
It is a very critical time, and both sides have to show forbearance, seriousness, and tolerance. The situation does not warrant for blame games, taunts, and finger-pointing.
Qureshi says Pakistan wants good relations with India and will try to offer help. He denies allegations by India media about the Pakistani government's complicity. Meanwhile, an unnamed U.S. diplomat says a group based in Pakistan may have been responsible for the attacks. Liu Yanhua, CCTV.
Indian fishermen in western Gujarat say they had repeatedly warned the government about the possibility of misuse of captured Indian boats by Pakistan. The investigation into the terror attacks in Mumbai has revealed that the assailants reached the city by sea. The fishermen say they had written several times to Prime Minister Manmohan Singh and Sonia Gandhi, the ruling Congress Party president, warning them of the danger that seized Indian boats could be misused. Last Wednesday, a group of armed militants landed in Mumbai and carried out one of the deadliest terror attacks in India's history. India claims the militants belong to the Pakistan-based Lashkar-e-Taiba group. Over in Brussels, NATO foreign ministers meeting have agreed on a gradual resumption of contacts with Russia. Ties have been suspended since Moscow's conflict with Georgia in August. Secretary General Jaap de Hoop Scheffer says the alliance agreed to re-engage with Russia in a conditional and graduated manner. He says the suspended ambassador-level NATO-Russia consul will meet again on an informal basis. The U.S. also dropped previous resistance, but Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice stressed the decision doesn't mean a return to normal relations with Russia. Rice also reached a compromise with Germany over how to manage the entry ambitions of Ukraine and Georgia. Venezuela is holding joint naval exercises with Russia in Venezuelan waters. The state-run Bolivian news agency says the operation involved 11 Venezuelan and 4 Russian ships and has been dubbed Venrus 2008. The report says the exercises include anti-aircraft defense and tactics to combat terrorism and drug trafficking. The Russian squadron arrived in Venezuela last Tuesday, led by the nuclear-powered cruiser Peter the Great. It's the first Russian military exercises in this region since the Cold War. You're watching Worldwide Watch. Coming up, the U.S. Treasury Secretary praises the positive impact of engagement with China through the strategic economic dialogue. And top nuclear envoys from the U.S. and Japan push for a written agreement to verify samples from DPRK nuclear facilities.